Hello, my friends. This is Gary Massey, CPA in Atlanta, Georgia, coming to talk with you today about the Form 8300 and cash sales over $10,000. So we're going to talk about who has to be concerned, how this works, the penalties, and about IRS audits. So first of all, this relates to transactions in cash over $10,000. It applies to both goods and services. And generally, this applies to businesses that are dealing in large ticket items that are over $10,000 where there's cash. And most typically, we see this with automobile dealerships. We see this sometimes with jewelry stores, and the cannabis industry has been identified as a potential industry where this is going to be a problem because they often don't have bank accounts. So what types of transactions are we talking about? As I said, it is over $10,000 in cash from the customer. It doesn't matter whether it's goods or services, it applies. If you sell an item on an installment plan where the payments are over 12 months and it equals, where the payments are within 12 months and it equals more than $10,000, that will apply. Related transactions, which means transactions from the same customer within a 24-hour period that exceed $10,000 will also trigger the 8300 requirement. Cash includes cash of the United States or of a foreign country, and it will also include cashier's checks, bank drafts, traveler's checks, and money orders. And those documents are where the face value is under 10,000, but the cash, when you add it together, equals $10,000. So in those cases where you have a combination of different types of currency over 10,000, then you would need to do an 8300. Cash does not include personal checks for this purpose. So the 8300, as I mentioned, has to be filed within 15 days of the transaction. Also, during the year, you have to file an annual statement with the customer where you tell them that you have filed an 8300 on their behalf. If you don't do these things that we have just discussed, there are penalties. Now, the penalty in 2021 is $280 per form per year. If you correct the missing form, if you file it within 30 days, the penalty is reduced to $50 per form. Now, the important thing to know is if you are found by the IRS to have done an intentional disregard of the rules, the penalties are much more severe. The penalty in 2021 is the greater of approximately $28,000 or $113,000, which if that's the amount of the transaction. So it can go up to $113,000 per transaction. That's for each form. So you can imagine that this penalty could swiftly become an enormous penalty that could really hurt a business. Now, if you have also failed to file the statement with the customer, then those penalties are double. So clearly, this is an area that you want to do right so you avoid any penalties. If the transaction is less than 10,000, but you feel that the customer is doing something to avoid the Form 8300 requirement, that is known as structuring. Structuring is a crime. You can go to jail for structuring. So in such a case, if you're the owner of the store and you see this happening and you're worried about it, there's a box on the Form 8300 for suspicious transactions. You should check that box and send it in. You do not need to tell your customer that you have done that. Now, IRS is auditing businesses for 8300. As I mentioned, I would be particularly concerned if you are a car dealership or a jewelry store. But anybody who is trading in cash for these big ticket items could be impacted. The IRS has up to 3 years to examine a filed Form 8300. If you have never filed the form, there is no statute of limitations, and they can go after you at any time. So just to conclude with a best practice, I recommend that any business that deals in cash and is selling expensive items should have on their premises a training manual, and they should do some kind of staff training so the folks in the business know what needs to be done for an 8300. And in particular, in the event of an IRS audit, you can pull out that training manual and show evidence that you did the training to show that the IRS that you are doing everything within your power to comply with the rules. And that should bring you down from those very high intentional disregard penalties to the much lower penalties. So just to conclude, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My telephone number, my email address, and my website is on the screen. I am happy to help you with Forms 8300 or any other kind of IRS tax matter or state tax matter. I look forward to speaking with you next time.